In today's podcast, we are going to talk about how to subdue or to conquer the anger response or the anger reflex. Nobody, I want you to think about this first. Nobody can really make you angry. You have to give them permission to do so. When you have control over your personality, the things you say, we want to learn how to manage that anger when it comes up, because there are people, it can be on the job, it can be because of a loss of job, and now we're at a new position and we're allowing that anger and frustration to come out. It can really be a turnoff to a lot of people. Now, people can't make you angry, as I mentioned just a second ago, but you have to give them permission to make you angry. You can say, well, I'm not going to be mad, but you actually are mad. Now, they can intentionally or unintentionally trigger, that reaction of anger from you. And it's difficult to kind of avoid this many times when we are frustrated about certain things or things that are not going our way. So I want to share a couple of tips with you about anger and how to subdue it or how to manage it when it does present itself to you. You have options when things present themselves to us. We all have choices, we all have options, and we know this, but sometimes it can get the best of us depending on our emotional state at the time. Because we know that, anger is definitely a turnoff. And you might be able to obtain compliance through displays of anger if you're the one lashing out at other people. But it'll never get you really what you want. It won't get you the commitment. It won't get you the management that you need to have. If you're just angry and yelling at people, it doesn't really help and it doesn't really work. Now, most anger is based on a combination of maybe it's the ego or lack of respect. It can be many, many different things. Each one of us are individuals and we respond that way differently. So keep in mind also that the cells in our body that make up our body, they take their signals from the mind, and the physical effect of holding a grudge or being angry, it can cause our bodies to have, different things going wrong or ailments. Anger that can change your physical health as well. So we have to learn how to manage that. One of the things that you want to do is not to hold a grudge. Don't hold a grudge against people. Don't hold a grudge because you lost your job or somebody threw you under the bus, as they say. And then literally, and when you're listening in other countries, that might not sound very clear, but somebody has done you wrong on the job. So keep in mind that holding a grudge, even against someone you feel like they deserve that, it's not going to harm them. It's going to harm you. So that's the first tip. Don't hold a grudge. My second tip is just forgive them, not for their sakes, but for your sakes. You have to forgive them. You have to move on. Many times when you'll know whether you've forgiven a person if you hear their name or someone mentions their name. How does your body respond? Not necessarily what you say out of your mouth, but how does your physical body, how do you respond? Do you tense up? Do you start thinking negative, nasty thoughts, but you just don't say them out of your mouth? Those types of things. That will let you know whether you really forgiven that person or not. And you just have to go back, and sometimes it takes more than just, I just forgive you. And you don't necessarily have to do it face to face. You just want to forgive them in your heart of hearts and just, move on and be able to let it go. It's easier said than done in some situations because those things really hurt. And usually when you're forgiving someone, it has to be someone maybe that was closer to you or someone that you felt that you work with, they were a colleague of yours. So those kind of things can be a challenge, but they're not, you're well able to subdue it and overcome it. So don't hold a grudge. Make sure that you forgive, and also think before you speak. When you're in a situation that you might feel the anger is rising up and you think about it, stop for a moment. Just think before you say anything. Pause. Make sure that you don't just send off a post or a Snapchat or Instagram or a tweet or Facebook or even an email. Read the email before you send it off, and then ask yourself this question: do I really, really want to put this out there? Because once it's out there, and everybody has a different way of interpreting what it is that you're saying, and even your attitude. So you must be mindful of that, because your attitude can really, really affect how someone interprets that. Next thing you know, you're in a full-blown part two of the anger argument. So just be mindful of that. Pause before you do that. And just agree to disagree. You're not going to always have to agree with everything that somebody says or does or what they believe. You have your own beliefs. You have the things that are in your heart that you believe that are true, and so do they. So everyone has the right to be respected for their opinion and their views, but just don't have to make it your way. It's not your way or the highway, or your way or no other way. Allow people to have their own opinions, and keep it, let them respect yours and you respect theirs. And sometimes that will cause division and separation between people, but maybe that's necessary. This happens when you agree to disagree. It happens when you and the other person have to come to a place where you might need some further discussion, especially if it's a work situation. You might have to have a mediator or someone to stand in the gap to facilitate your conversation. But respect their right to believe what they believe, and allow them to respect your right. And even if they don't, you are the one that's framing your life and what you want. So they don't have to make you angry. You're going to allow them to make you angry or frustrated. So keep that in mind as well. And a lot of times when people are angry, they do a lot of criticizing. We all criticize. We catch ourselves sometimes criticizing. We can just look at something and criticize it to ourselves. It doesn't even have to be with another person. It can be in our thought lives. We criticize ourselves. So learning how to handle and grow from a situation that may have been a burst of anger. Just learn how to grow from that and to manage your emotions and acknowledge the fact, hey, I didn't handle that the way I should have. Think about that as well. So these are the little tips that I just want to give you about, just subduing anger or frustration because of a job situation or your work situation. Make sure that you are forgiving people, that you, agree to disagree. Think before you speak. So keep those things in mind. Practice them if you need to, and make sure that you are framing your own world and not allowing someone to frame it for you. That's the most important part. You are the one that creates the frame around your world, not someone else. So think about that as you are managing that anger. Sometimes you might have to get even some support in that, some professional support in that, and that's nothing wrong with that as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. I invite you to visit the website. We have a class on there regarding resumes and some other things that are going to be coming up about the answering the tough questions on jobs and jobs interview coming up soon. And I mentioned before, just visit our website, take a look at some of the resources that we have, and you have a great one.